What does it mean to be part of a community? It's not simply just living in the same town or going to the same places. To truly be part of a community, it means much more. At Stoller, our roots run deep. The family established the property in 1943 and the vineyard 50 years later. Over the last 27 years, we have patiently transformed the 400-acre property into the largest contiguous vineyard in Oregon's Dundee Hills. Much has changed since the original farm, but one thing remains the same. We are constantly seeking new ways to refine and protect our legacies so that they can thrive for generations to come. For us, that means upholding a responsibility to our land, our wines, our employees, and our community. Every year, our team works relentlessly in the pursuit of crafting exceptional wines. From pruning in the winter to excess crop thinning in the summer, every decision informs the coming vintage, building to harvest. We strive to do better every year. We gave everything we've got because it's not about us. It's about supporting our community. Can you believe that this harvest is almost wrapped up?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Can't believe it. It's been a really great harvest, but it's been long and compressed. Is that, it seems strange to say that because they're opposites, but it's true. This has been your 18th harvest?
19th.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I started in 03, so that's 18 years, so 19th harvest. And like we've talked about before, every harvest is unique for something. And I always ask myself, like, how is this going to be different, especially being at the same estate, with the same vantage point. But this year, just like you were saying, I think what was unique is a few things, but certainly that it was early and it was compressed.
Do you want to speak to the evolution of Stoller and about the history? And 19 harvests.
Yeah,
it's a good amount of time.
Definitely.
But it's changed a lot.
It has. Just the years alone with the vines. Looking when I first started in 2003, vines were getting planted, and they have been over the years. But just tracking the wines and seeing the the maturity of the vines translate into the quality in the glass. And we've
Absolutely. Well, I know. What I've really appreciated is coming onto the team and having your historical knowledge and not kind of having to figure out what our Grand Cru sections are. You kind of establish those and you're like, no, just from tasting these are the best. And so it's definitely not starting from scratch. It's there's, again, this kind of collective knowledge of how the vineyard has progressed and grown, and it's been really interesting to make wines from this one site.
Being located here in the Dundee Hills and having this estate vineyard has, I feel like, such an advantage to our wines.
We are always, on the earlier side to pick compared to our colleagues, and that's really proved, fortuitous. We're so lucky because Bill really, dug his heels in and planted more Chardonnay when a lot of people were pulling it out, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so to have 20-plus-year-old vines to work with is just fantastic. I think Chardonnay is just really hitting its stride both here in Oregon and Oregon wines on the national market as well.
Absolutely. We need to drink some wine.
We do.
This
I
is
think it's time.
I was sitting waiting
this
to drink some. Yes.
One of the longer conversations I've had without a glass in my hand.
So we are having tonight with the first course this 2020 Pinot Noir Rosé. And this is a wine that we've been making for 15 years plus, right? And this rosé I think is going to be a slam dunk with the roasted veggie and the pairing here.
Wish we were with you guys.
Yeah, we wish. I do too. I mean, this is a Pinot Noir rosé where we have the intention to make this wine fresh and very aromatic and crisp acidity, no tannin, a lot of length. So
farmed intentionally. But what I love is the story of how you decided to make it, and then you kind of surprised Bill with it.
That's my favorite story too about the history of this, because yes, when we opened the first winery here on the property in 2005, first harvest here, very small production. Bill was away on business in the fall. He had come back right after harvest was wrapping up about this time of year, a little later since it's a later season, but we're tasting the wines, and we came to a tank of wine, and I poured him a sample of Pinot Noir rosé that I had decided to make for the tasting room. And I was excited and poured it, and he looked at it and looked at me and just frowned at the rosé and said, we didn't talk about making rosé. And I just said, yes, I know, but it's some Pinot Noir rosé. And he's like, I don't like rosé. And that was in 2005, 150 cases. And the best part of the story is that, because obviously we make this still, I think the beauty of it is not just the fun story for him and the kind of I told you so thing that happened, but also
that you can now say on film.
Yeah, I can say on film comfortably.
It's
captured. But also that this has been something over the work. So it took a few years, a handful of years to really hone in on the style. And I think we have worked on really perfecting that, and very confident with this rosé. And it's nice to have that in an ocean of rosé, and the whole rosé all day, everywhere. Yeah. Great. It's great. That's very popular, but being able to come in and have been there making rosé for this long and doing something really intentional and of high quality was really an advantage. This Dundee Hill Chardonnay to me is one of the most versatile wines for food pairing because of that bright fresh fruit, the acidity, and the length without a lot of tannin. It goes with almost everything. So.
Oh, 100%. I see that it's being paired with chicken piccata.
Yes.
Which sounds delicious.
I want to try that.
I know. I wish we were with you again, so we could share in the wonderful food pairings with you. But I can only imagine that this is going to pair just wonderfully. I always liked Chardonnay, but I didn't realize how much I love making Chardonnay until I came to Stoller. It's been a love affair, right? We have 60 acres planted of Chardonnay, and so we're able to make so many different expressions of it, and they all have their own kind of personality. And this is such an inspired style because it's for the person who will automatically say, I don't like Chardonnay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The ABC, anything but Chardonnay person.
It's it's so bright and fruit forward, and oftentimes everybody's like, oh, I didn't think I liked Chardonnay, but I love this wine. And when you first were coming up with this idea and this style, was that your intention, do you think?
I think it was to showcase something different. So somewhat yes, and just capture that food-friendly, really bright citrus notes you get from Chardonnay without having any of the oaky, toasty notes to it to follow, and a little bit looking at my love of Chablis, which obviously this is not, but making a Chardonnay that was kind of along that stylistic range. And I think to your point about people wanting something besides the oaky, yes, having this, look at this, look at what you can do. And we have a lot of Chardonnay planted here, and we're very fortunate for that.
A lot of producers emulated that California style that was really viscous and buttery and oaky, and this is the antithesis of that. That's it's the complete opposite.
Absolutely.
And it's you're ahead of your time.
Yeah, it was well good done. It was good. And I think what's been great about this style, which is as you know, it's primarily unoaked, but watching and working with this vineyard and having it mature and get more complexity from the Chardonnay naturally, this wine has taken an evolution over time and now that we're using a little bit of concrete to ferment with this, and then a small amount of neutral barrels, I think this wine is just increasing the quality and the concentration and complexity that it has to offer, but still being that fresh, really vibrant style. So, last but not least, the 2019 Dundee Hills Pinot Noir, which I consider like the flagship of the Stoller Estates. In this bottling is, in essence, every clone of Pinot Noir that we grow, every elevation, all the different age of vines, and harvested and made of that vintage and blended. So you get this really beautiful like mosaic of the site.
I love how you call it that. I think it's so true. The vintage will play a part, and but I think there's that common thread that like it's the Dundee Hills from Stoller, and this is our calling card, right?
Yeah,
so.
I think it's got a really special place within the focus, and it is our biggest offering. But because you get a little bit of everything, it's so consistent. Like you get the whole 240 acres in a way in this glass.
And 2019 was more traditional in terms of weather for Oregon, right? Like it started raining, and I remember a lot of people in the valley were like, oh my God, what do we do? And it's like, no, we are from Oregon. This is what we do. This is what makes it so cool. And I mean, both figuratively and literally.
Definitely. We farm for it all year.
Exactly.
We're prepared for it.
It's this moment, right? Like I think in a cool year like 2019, you get not just like the ripeness of the fruit, but you get like the nuances of the vineyard, and there's a lot of minerality and earth and some floral components from like the Wadensville, and
it's coming out right now too.
And
it's
this
really
is such
floral.
a cool time to look at this wine.
Agreed.
I'm really enjoying all the 19s right now because they've had this time in bottle, and they're just so expressive and lovely, and they're lower in alcohol and like really just elegant and pretty.
Absolutely. It's tasting and smelling so good, and I know it's going to go good with the food. It looks like with salmon and some
that's
pork.
so Oregon, right?
So
I don't think
Oregon.
you can not have Oregon without some salmon.
I agree.
It's perfect pairing.
Yeah.
So and there's the pork loin too for those non-fish eaters. Like it's perfect.
Cheers to the Wine Vault for having us tonight alongside this beautiful looking meal. Next time we both want to be in person to join you. That would be absolutely wonderful, and just thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris and Mary. It's been a real pleasure to be with you virtually. But really thank you for supporting Stoller, and we hope you enjoy the meal and the wine, of course. So cheers. Bon appetit.
Yeah.